So this is the iPhone XR or 10R you may say, and I've been using it every single day for the past 9 months now. However, this is not the newest iPhone on the market, neither does it fold or does it float. But somehow, some way, it just works. So the question is, does the iPhone XR still hold its ground in 2025, despite being over half a decade now since its launch? Well, let's find out. So this device has been in my pocket for nearly a year now, which in my opinion is the best time for a long-term review. And I picked it up last year around August, and since then I've used it to film, communicate and edit almost everything you see right here on the channel. And even this moment, it is what I'm using to record this video. So I'll go over everything from the design, the battery life, the performance, the camera, the software and the display, and tell you if this phone still deserves a spot in your pocket today. But first, you see, when Apple launched the iPhone XR back in 2018, it was Apple's attempt to bring flagship features to a more affordable price. And so with that, you get the same A12 Bionic chipset as the 10X and the 10X Max, the same Face ID, but you get a liquid retina LCD display instead of the OLED, all packed in this beautiful and awesome body. So fast forward when I picked it up in 2024, and it already felt like a veteran in today's iPhone lineup. But here's the thing, I wasn't really looking for the latest flashy device at that time. Instead, I was looking for a phone that has a value, a phone that could handle almost anything I threw at it. So I did my dig around on most smartphone brands within my budget range at that time, to which I decided to go for the iPhone XR. And to be honest, I haven't regretted my decision on purchasing this device. But first, let's talk about the design. 9 months later of using the iPhone XR, and I found out that the iPhone XR is one of Apple's most underrated iPhones in terms of design-wise. I mean, this thing's got a balance between simplicity and durability a phone could possibly have, in my opinion. Sure, the bezels are chunkier than what we are used to in 2025, but it's never really bothered me. I did drop it a few times on hard surfaces though, which, to be honest, who hasn't? However, the last drop it had led to this tiny crack at the top right corner here. The aluminum frame has also held up very well, and it still feels solid in hands. However, it may not look modern anymore to people, but it still feels premium in ways that really matters. And this is the kind of design you don't get from spec sheets. Now, for the performance, even in 2025, this phone still keeps surprising. I mean, this phone runs on Apple's A12 Bionic chipset from 2018, paired with a 3GB of RAM, which in today's smartphone world of 8 to 16GB of RAM might sound like a joke. But trust me, this thing keeps surprising. I mean, animations are fluid, Face ID is still fast, multitasking is very good, plus editing short and long-form videos is also doable, although you might feel the heat if you push it a bit harder, and it reminds you of, hey, I'm not young anymore. But for 90% of my daily use, it doesn't feel slow, which I think says more about Apple's optimization than it does about the chip itself. And I don't think I've ever used any phone that feels this responsive even over half a decade since its release, which is crazy. Now, there's one thing that quietly reveals a phone's age, and it's definitely lower than the battery, which, trust me, after 9 months of living with the iPhone XR, I've learned exactly what 81% of battery health feels like. Now, when I first got this phone, it had 86% of battery health, which is not perfect, but it was manageable. But now it has dropped to 81%. And trust me, that 5% drop in battery health isn't just a number on screen. On average, I get about 6 to 7 hours of screen time daily, which is enough to last me throughout most of my day before I start hunting for that charger. And that is with the screen brightness at around 50%, some casual social media scroll, plus some TikToks and a few video edits. But once the battery hits 20%, the drop feels faster, like it's telling me, wrap it up, bro. Now, it's not unusable though. Far from it. But if you are considering buying this phone in 2025, then the battery health has to be part of your priority, especially if you are getting a used iPhone XR. And if it is something below 85%, then you have to know you are starting from second lap. Now, for the cameras, the iPhone XR only has a single 12-megapixel rear camera, which doesn't make sense to most people considering the number of cameras we get on recent models. But don't let that fool you. It still takes some decent shots under good lighting conditions. The details are very sharp and the focus is also very reliable. Low light shots are also passable, although you will notice some noise and soft edges. Plus, the portrait mode is surprisingly solid despite not having a dedicated depth sensor, and this is thanks to Apple's computational magic doing the heavy lifting here. Plus, the video quality is also very good. At 1080p and 4K shooting mode, I've used it to film almost everything you see right here on the channel since I got it, and it hasn't let me down. Plus, the audio pickup is also very good. So if you are a creator on budget, then the iPhone XR can still be your backup camera if you consider buying any. Now for the display, it is a 6.1 inches liquid retina LCD display, not an OLED. Also, it doesn't have a high refresh rate or an HDR feature, but the colors are pretty accurate and the viewing angles are also decent. And as I said, scrolling on this device is locked to 60Hz only, which is fine for casual use. But once you get used to 120Hz on newer devices, going back feels like driving a manual when you've tested an auto driving. Yeah. But with that said, what Apple nailed right with this panel is consistency. And even after all these years of using it, there's no burning, no weird color shifting, and there's no ghosting. However, this display might not wow anymore, but it still works, and more importantly, it looks clean. Finally, what's an iPhone without a software? And honestly, this is where the iPhone XR still flexes, even in 2025, which I would say iOS has always been Apple's secret weapon. And for this phone, it's no different. So when I first got this phone, it came out running on the iOS 17, which was upgradable to iOS 18, even though the hardware is over 6 years old now. However, I haven't updated to the iOS 18 because I'm pretty much okay with the iOS 17, and I find no reason why I should hop on to the iOS 18, at least for now. And one thing I would say is Apple's long-term software support for devices like this plays a huge part of why devices like this stay relevant in the markets compared to other smartphone brands. But here's the fine print. While the iPhone XR still gets the newer features in 2025, not all the features are equal. So things like the latest AI-powered photo editor and the latest camera software tricks couldn't make it to the iPhone XR. So this is where you feel the generational gap. But for day-to-day use, the iPhone XR doesn't feel like an ancient relic. The fact that I can install the same apps and get the same security updates in 2025 is a testament to how Apple has designed its ecosystem for longevity. And so with that said, for me, the iPhone XR wasn't really about specs. It was about trust. And after 9 months of living with this phone, I can boldly say I trust this phone. Although it's not perfect and it's not new, but it's still dependable. And in a world of constant upgrades, sometimes what you really need is a phone that can keep you up for a very long run. Oh, and one more thing. Well, the iOS 26 that has been currently rolled out by Apple, well, it seems like the iPhone XR couldn't make it on the list. But like I said, I haven't updated to the iOS 18. The iOS 17 is pretty much okay. Like, I like it. I like everything about it. And this part of the video that I'm talking about now, well, I've waited for the WWDC 25 to, take place so I can figure out if the iPhone XR can get the iOS 26. And as it appears, we are not going to get it. So this video is being recorded on a different date. And also, I've talked about the behind the scene of how I'm recording this. So, I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. And that's my long-term review of the iPhone XR in 2025. So if you are considering on buying one or you are already using one of these, then let me know your experience in the comment section. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.